So, good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Jostin. I'm the chair of the History of Art and Architecture Department at the University of Pittsburgh. It's my great honor to welcome you to the commencement and recognition ceremony for the wonderful and accomplished students in our graduate program in History of Art and Architecture. This is our second virtual commencement ceremony. The first was in May 2020. We're coming together in Zoom rather than in person to mark the culmination of an academic year that has been unlike any we have ever experienced, with most university functions taking place remotely rather than in person due to the ongoing threat of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has taken over 3 million lives across the world to date, 575,000 of them in the United States alone. Beyond the uncertainty, the illness, and the grief that it's wrought, the pandemic has laid bare the structural inequities, the racism, the xenophobia that unfortunately continue to persist within the systems and institutions in which we live and work. We're grateful to our students whose clear-eyed, compassionate, and constructive approaches to learning, researching, teaching, and leading have shown us new ways forward for the benefit of current and future students and for our society more broadly. Today's an opportunity for our faculty, who I'll introduce in a moment, to say thank you to these graduates for the honor of teaching, mentoring, and collaborating with you. It's also an opportunity for us to say thank you to you, the family members, the loved ones, the friends of these students. We recognize that your support is absolutely vital to their success. Finally, we want to thank the supporters whose contributions to the Friends of Frick Fine Arts Fund help our students to carry out research, travel, and internships all 12 months of the year. So at this point, I'd like to introduce our faculty members, and I'll go in alphabetical order. If you're here and want to unmute, that will probably put the yellow highlight square on your square. First, Professor Drew Armstrong.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Jostin.
Professor Gretchen Bender. Professor Maria Danabale.
Hello, good afternoon.
Professor Joshua Ellenbogen.
Hello.
Professor Shirin Fozzi.
Hi, everyone.
Professor Sahar Hosseini. May not be with us. Professor Jessica Landau, our newest full-time faculty member. Professor Allison Langmead.
Hello, everyone.
Professor Barbara McCloskey.
Hello, everybody.
Professor Mickey McCoy, who's with us, I believe. Professor Tom Morton.
Good afternoon.
Professor Christopher Nygren.
Hello.
Professor Minna Rajagopalan.
Hi, everyone.
Professor Sylvia Rohr Samaniego. Professor Kirk Savage.
Hello, welcome everyone.
Professor Terry Smith, who sends his regrets. Professor Alex Taylor.
Hi, everyone.
And Professor Ann Weiss. So I also want to recognize our department's wonderful administrative staff. I don't believe either of them is with us, but Alyssa DeFolco and Caroline Swantek have risen to every challenge this year with tremendous thoughtfulness, skill, and grace, including the organizing of this event and its wonderful program, which I am reposting here in the chat so that you can go to that link and follow along with our program. I also want to thank Barbara McCloskey, Ellen Larson, and Janina Lopez for their help in organizing this ceremony. So this pandemic year has brought many changes to our department, including the retirements of two wonderful staff members, Linda Hicks, who might possibly have been able to join us, I don't think so, and Veronica Gazdick, each of whom gave more than 4 decades of service to HAA and to Pitt. So we thank them for that. August brought the retirement of our Professor Karen Gerhardt, a specialist in medieval Japanese art history, who joined the faculty with tenure in 2001. Her emphasis on issues of gender, ritual, and material culture kept her and our program at the forefront of that subfield. And during her 2 decades at Pitt, Professor Gerhardt supervised 10 students who completed their PhDs while also maintaining a very productive publishing record. We're grateful to her for her contributions and wish her all the best for this next phase. September saw the retirement of Professor Gao-Ming Liu. Over his 15 years of teaching at Pitt, Professor Gao contributed to our department and to the university in many ways, from his foundational teaching and advising on modern and contemporary art of China, to his participation in important symposia, publications, and exhibitions that were organized in part in collaboration with our university art gallery and the university library system. We're grateful to him for his many contributions and wish him all the best as well. And finally, this year we'll see the retirement of Professor Ann Weiss after 45 years of teaching and mentoring Pitt students in the art, architecture, and archaeology of the ancient Mediterranean world. Professor Weiss is an expert on Hellenistic sculpture with an emphasis on issues of gender and civic space. She led the way in introducing these topics into Pitt classrooms. She also served as department chair from 1992 to 1998 and has been on a truly impressive number of committees at the school and university level. So we want to express our gratitude to her for her many contributions and wish her all the best. I end with the sad news that on April 19 of this year, just 2 weeks ago, we lost our colleague, distinguished Professor Emeritus Franklin K. Toker, who joined the department in 1980 and retired 38 years later in 2018. Professor Toker was renowned for his lectures on architectural and urban history and for his 10 books, which range in subject from the medieval church underneath the cathedral in Florence, Italy, to the landmark book, Pittsburgh, A New Portrait, an unsurpassed architectural history of and guide to our city. In the days since Professor Toker's death, I've returned several times to some words that a Pitt alum posted to his online obituary in the Post-Gazette. And I want to read these words for you now. Chris Friedberg writes, quote, "I was just one student in a classroom of 100, but his class changed my life at Pitt. One day I looked up and noticed truth and beauty in this city. It didn't stop there and encouraged me to travel and see and feel the buildings we studied. I was a thug before his class, but he pointed out so many things outside that door which connected me with the world. Soon I became a better person for it. He made my life better. He made the city more beautiful." I think these words capture what Professor Toker gave to those of us who were fortunate to learn from him in the Frick Fine Arts Auditorium, where this ceremony was held in the past. It's a comfort and a gift to know that we can still connect with his voice, his lessons through his books. I think these words also capture our department's core collective belief that by investigating the purposes and meanings of cultural objects, spaces, and environments that have been shaped and reshaped over time, we come to better understand ourselves and each other and are better able to bring about positive change in this world that we share. So on that note, I'd like to hand it over to Professor Barbara McCloskey, our Director of Graduate Studies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And I think people are going to hear certain themes in your talk that echo in mine. I have been at Pitt a long time, and I see many familiar faces here and a few new ones too. So I want to welcome you all to our ceremony today. For all the years I've been here, I've never experienced such a remarkable time in our department and in our collective lives. Remarkable in painful ways, to be sure, but remarkable in astonishing ways too. And my astonishment is above all about our students and all they've accomplished over this strange year and a half of the pandemic. That includes their impressive degrees, awards, and fellowships, but it also includes the care they've shown to each other and to all of us during what has been, let's face it, an extraordinarily difficult year. Watching them, learning from them, sharing with them has been a true source of strength and joy. Their example can only give us hope in the future world they'll lead. And they're all leaders, as scholars, teachers, mentors, and positive role models in so many ways to those who will come after them. Above all, our graduate students affirm time and again why the study of art and architectural history matters. Their desire to explore and share with others the beauty and poignancy of human creative expression, around the globe and throughout time, brings that expression closer to each and every one of us. Their research, writing, and teaching allows us to experience aesthetic pleasures we wouldn't otherwise, and to know about peoples and cultures, familiar and unfamiliar, with informed insight, appreciation, and fresh perspective. This is vitally important work, perhaps now more than ever. We honor our students in that important work today. Among our honorees are those who have won prestigious fellowships and grants over the past year. Their success is no small achievement. They have each competed at university, national, and international levels for limited fellowship and award opportunities, and their work in each instance has been positively evaluated by established scholars in and beyond their fields of study. These awards and honors will enable our students to pursue their doctoral research at places including the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and the Smithsonian American Art Museum in Washington. Others will be traveling to Serbia, Italy, Germany, and elsewhere over the coming year. Please be sure to read about their awards and honors on our program. There are several awards that I want to draw special attention to. First, I want to single out those students who have won Graduate Excellence in Teaching Awards in our department, both last year and this year. This year, we had two awardees, Rebecca Giordano and Yijing Wang, our department pioneers in fully online teaching this past summer. They also graciously shared with the rest of us how to navigate in this new and uncharted environment as we struggled to retool from in-person to virtual instruction this past year. Rebecca and Yijing, this award is but a small token of appreciation from students and faculty alike for your extraordinary work. I also want to celebrate Andrea Maxwell, last year's Excellence in Graduate Teaching Award winner. This year, Andrea has shared her insights with other graduate and faculty teachers as our department's graduate mentor for teaching. I am also thrilled to announce that she added another award to her long list just yesterday, and I'm so glad she's here. I see her in her square over there. Andrea is in fact the first of our graduate students ever to be honored with the excruciatingly competitive Elizabeth Berenger Teaching Award in the School of Arts and Sciences. Congratulations, Andrea. That is an incredible achievement. I also want to highlight two other department awards. The first is the Marstein Prize for Outstanding Work in the Public Humanities, conferred this year on Isaiah Bertagnoli. This prize was established several years ago by the family of Janet Marstein. Janet is an alumna of our program, who is now a leading international scholar in the field of museum ethics. The second award is the James and Suzanne Wilkinson Research Prize for Outstanding Scholarship in Pre-Modern Art, given this year to Jake Eisensmith. Longtime friends of our department, the Wilkinsons established this prize some 10 years ago in order to support research travel for our students interested in exploring the art of pre-modern cultures. The Marsteins, the Wilkinsons, and the many others who contribute annually to our Friends of the Frick Fine Arts Fund provide vital support for our student researchers and allow us to maintain and build on the excellence of our graduate program. We simply cannot thank them enough for their support and generosity. We are here today, above all, to mark the achievements of a very special group of people, namely our graduate students who have earned their advanced degrees. The first group of honorees are our master's candidates. They earn this degree after 2 years of intensive study in our program and the production of a lengthy paper based on original research and critical insight. This year, their topics have spanned art in ancient China, Baroque Italy, and the United States after World War II. The second group we honor today are our PhD students who have taken their studies beyond the MA and developed book-length research projects the product in each case of years of study in archives, collections, and libraries, thinking and rethinking, staring at blank pages, and then somehow miraculously filling them up, page after page, into impressive volumes with intellectual heft. In the process, they become not only scholars and writers, but also teachers, curators, and mentors. Above all, they've become valued friends and colleagues. We welcome them all into our world. I'll now introduce each student and their advisor by name, and they will both say a few words. At the end, I'll invite us all to join in the time-honored tradition that marks each graduation ceremony, namely the hooding of our graduates. It won't be real, it'll be virtual, but it will be memorable. So hold on to that. And I will start to introduce our faculty and our graduates. So we're going to begin with the honoring of our MA candidates, followed by our PhD candidates. And first up is Isaiah Bertagnoli, who will be introduced by his advisor, Professor Alex Taylor.
Thanks, Barbara. Hi, everyone. I am delighted to introduce Isaiah and his project to you, and pleased to tell you a little bit about the research that he's been doing that leads to him receiving his MA today. So Isaiah's paper, titled "No More Hiroshimas, Jacob Lawrence's Hiroshima Series and the Anti-Nuclear Movement of the Early 1980s, represents the first in-depth account of an important series of works from late in the career of the American painter Jacob Lawrence. These works were made to become printed illustrations for a new edition of John Hersey's book Hiroshima, published by the Limited Editions Club in 1983. And they'd attracted really very limited scholarly attention. Existing mentions of these works had tended to connect them back to Lawrence's own experience in World War II, or the kind of broader humanist commitments of American art at mid-century. Isaiah's archival research into this series revealed, however, the ways in which these works engaged with issues much more contemporary to the moment of their production. Lawrence accepted the commission soon after attending an anti-nuclear protest meeting in August 1982. And this discovery prompted Isaiah to recontextualize this series within the period's burgeoning anti-nuclear movement and the ways in which its activists grappled with the unequal impacts of nuclear proliferation on race relations, on social welfare programs, and on the environment. Isaiah's paper has really set the agenda for his broader dissertation project, and I am super excited to work alongside him to discover the broader histories of art's engagement with anti-nuclear activism that I'm sure his doctoral research will continue to uncover. Thank you, and I hand over to Isaiah to make a few remarks.
Thank you, Alex. Hello, everyone. It's really nice to be with you all today. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize my advisor, Alex, whose mentorship and guidance has been invaluable to my development as a young scholar. I am grateful to have an advisor who is so encouraging and so supportive. Thank you very much, Alex. I would also like to thank Terry as my second reader for his input on my MA paper. He has been a touchstone as I continue to develop my ways of thinking. I would also like to recognize Richard Hilton, for whose seminar, African American Art in the International Arena, I wrote my MA paper, and I thank him for his input on its early stages. Alex, Terry, and Richard are a part of a larger faculty in HAA who, in normal years, have a commitment to students from which I have benefited. I am enormously grateful to have worked with so many of the faculty and gleaned insights from their own work and subfields. Though most of my time in HAA so far has been in quarantine, the department's continued efforts to maintain community has made this past year not feel quite so remote. I am thankful to be a small part of a department that fosters such community, and thank you all for your support that has gotten me here. I eagerly look forward to my dissertation project and a shared lifelong commitment to education and to students. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Isaiah. So next, actually, two of our MA candidates were not able to join us today, but their advisors will have some comments to share with us about each of them. And so following Isaiah now is Professor Mickey McCoy, who will say a few words about her MA candidate, Hua-Ting Liu. Mickey?
So I can't see any of you.
We're here. We
Okay.
promise.
Well, in any case, I'm really happy to be part of this lovely ceremony today, and greetings to all. Congrats to everyone receiving accolades. I'm in Minneapolis at the moment, so greetings from the suddenly balmy Midwest. Hua-Ting Liu, my MA advisee, grew up in the southern Chinese city of Shenzhen, a city that some of us know as one of migrants. But she has roots in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in China's northwest. This is a place frequently in the news for troubling reasons these days, and also a millennia-old conduit of trans-Eurasian exchange that is now part of the People's Republic of China. It's home to a tremendous wealth of art historical and archaeological material, much of which entered into the Western historical record after questionable sales or outright looting by foreign explorers. Hua-Ting returned to Xinjiang, this kind of ancestral home for her, for the MA paper in this program to really boldly address the Bronze Age site of Xiaohe, a cemetery well known for its preserved Europoid mummies, so mummies with things like high noses and blonde or at least red hair. So the resulting paper, entitled Art of the Xiaohe Cemetery, The Identity and Mobility of Women Artists in Bronze Age Eurasia, distills complicated literature in genetics and archaeology, lucidly summarizing current debates in each of those disciplines, as well as linking them to more art historical issues of materiality, facture, and tomb design. It offers a very interesting, if controversial, hypothesis that this material culture may have been ultimately produced for and by women. Women occupants at this site maintain a very important position in a variety of ways. Hua-Ting Liu benefited from the training this program offers and certainly took advantage of it in the digital humanities to produce ArcGIS maps that distill a lot of this information in a very clear and informative manner. It also offers a timely critique for the field more broadly of Silk Road art history by examining how modern periodization models and the carving up of different regions have hampered inquiry into ancient patterns of mobility and exchange. So in other words, applying the kind of analysis of mobility and exchange that is usually not seen until we reach the medieval period, so to speak, to the Bronze Age. So pushing the discourse back, it's millennia, centuries and centuries. So it was a pleasure to work with Hua-Ting on this project, and I'm just so glad that someone can speak for this field that is so often ignored in art history and even among the broader range of disciplines that touch this site, that would touch this site. So Hua-Ting holds a BA from Center College, Kentucky, and an MA from the School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London. There, she completed a promising MA thesis on a foundational issue of China-India exchange on the history of Buddhist art. And again, it has been very gratifying to work with Hua-Ting as she pushes this analysis back to pre-Buddhist and indeed pre-historic periods, pre-literary periods, I should say. So it's a great delight to congratulate Hua-Ting on the accomplishments of her paper and to award her the MA from our program now. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mickey. And so now we turn to Professor Chris Nygren, who will speak to us about his MA student, Claire Pashinsky.
Hello, everybody. So Claire is not here, so I can embarrass her all I want by praising her, and she cannot blush into the camera. Claire is an exceptional student. She came to us already with an MA from TCU, but we made the joint decision to do another MA because it would, with the hope was that it would springboard to a dissertation topic. And her MA thesis was about the ecology of chapel design in Baroque Rome. And it offers a really ambitious reconsideration of the aesthetics of Baroque Rome and Baroque art and architecture more generally by latching on to the concept of visual ecology as a way of rethinking this term that many of us have heard, the bel composto, which is where painting, sculpture, and architecture come together. And she's trying to think about these spaces as ecological spaces, spaces of visual ecology. So the original plan was for her to go to Rome last summer and find a number of sort of less studied chapels that she would look at in addition to a couple of the more well-known chapels. Obviously, that was not possible. But what she ended up working on were sort of two very well-known examples, Bernini's Chapel of the Blessed Sacrament in St. Peter's and the Chapel of St. Ignatius in the Gesù. And then a third one that's sort of known, but not that great, not that well-known, Melchiorre Caffa's Santa Caterina a Magnanapoli, which you see behind me. Really amazing work in all sorts of different stone colors. Claire's thesis was exceptionally well written, well argued, thoughtful. She is an elegant writer. The faculty's response to the MA was universally really positive. Many people noted that it was one of the most well constructed in terms of prose MAs that we've seen in a while. And she's a really strong writer. She has convictions, scholarly, ethical, and humane that are really admirable. And I cannot wait to see where this project goes in the future. She has the world at her fingertips. So I look forward to working with her as we move forward.
Thank you, Chris. So a round of applause for our MA candidates. And now we turn to the award of the PhD degrees. And we will hear first from Professor Josh Ellenbogen, introducing us to his student, Nicole Coffino.
Great. Thank you very much, Barbara. I am delighted and honored to call to your attention Nicole Coffino, with whom it has been my privilege to work since, I believe, 2014. She has been such an orienting point for many in the department, including me, that I'm not sure what we will do in her absence, but we will struggle on. Nicole has specialized in the history of photography and has done so since arriving on these shores from the University of Chicago, where she had previously earned an interdisciplinary humanities degree. Right away, Nicole gravitated at Pitt towards the history of photography and the history of modernism in Italy. And this is actually a quite understudied subject, considering the kind of profile Italy has for certain periods in the study of art history. Its modern period and its usage of photography in particular has received very little scrutiny. And Nicole's master's degree at Pitt, in fact, concerned this topic. Nicole produced an extremely impressive master's essay on a photographic album of patriotic imagery that circulated widely in Italy after the Risorgimento. And Nicole went on to publish this work shortly thereafter in one of the top peer-reviewed essays in our field. This kind of success, Nicole also curated an exhibition here in Pittsburgh not long after completing her master's, only made possible more success. Nicole actually won the Crest Grant at the Biblioteca Hertziana in Rome to support 2 years of dissertation work. For those who do not know, that is essentially impossible to do. You do not win that grant. Nicole did. And then she subsequently won the J. Clausen Mills grant at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City to write the dissertation. Eventually, we had to get these institutions to surrender Nicole back to us so she could present her dissertation for defense and approval. And this past autumn, she did precisely that. Nicole produced a masterly work entitled Binding Identities, Photograph Albums and Italian Nationalism from 1857 to 1867, which looked at how photography contributed to the development of Italian national identity in the years surrounding Italy's unification as a country. And this has been a recurring motif in Nicole's research, the question of photography and the articulation of national identity, above all in an Italian context. In particular, Nicole looked at practices of collecting photographs into albums that subsequently enjoyed a pretty wide circulation. And this is very important research because the album represents one of the primary formats in which people came into contact with photography in the 19th century. And in spite of that fact, very few people have contended seriously with this question. I'll also just mention that en route to producing this dissertation, Nicole also managed to make original and quite striking contributions to the study of stereoscopy, as well as the question of Orientalism in an Italian context. So it's been a privilege to work with Nicole. I would say to supervise her, but honestly, particularly in recent years, I have learned at least as much from Nicole as she has learned from me. And that's how the relationship is supposed to develop. Nicole has become very impressive, independent scholar and peer, and I look forward to learning more from her. I will also just mention, finally, that as she developed this tremendously impressive record in a scholarly context, Nicole also managed to develop a nascent movie career starring in a feature film called They, which was released on the film festival circuit. You can see it online. She's doing a new film. She's promised me a role in this film, by the way, and that's been recorded now, so she has to. Nicole, congratulations. It's been great working with you.
Should I begin? Okay. Thank you, Josh. Sorry, I'm a little bit taken from this. That was very generous, everything that you said. It feels like simply thanking my committee members is so insufficient for all that they've done. But of course, nonetheless, very deep thanks to you, Josh. Very deep thanks to Kirk and to Terry, who isn't here, and to my fourth committee member in the Italian department, Lena Insana. She was wonderful. Yeah, I've been off campus more than on in the 7+ years that I've been working. And so your continued availability, deeply thoughtful and supportive comments, always extremely helpful comments, not just in the writing, but in the thinking, in the different kinds of problems I should approach, how, why. It's been, you've been just absolutely supportive. And I need to thank the faculty at large, because I don't know who was on the committee that nominated me to the CRES, but when I think of my dissertation, I just think of Rome. And I know that this fellowship was something for which I had to be nominated. And so I really want to thank the department for elevating me to that opportunity. It was really not just for my dissertation, but it was a really transformative experience in so many ways that will, I think, enrich actually the rest of my life. Yeah, I don't know if I should say anything about my own work or not. We start production on my next movie in 2 weeks, so I'm pretty stressed about that. And yeah, I think that's all. Thank you all very, very much for all the support and help. And I look forward to continuing to work as a peer and colleague with everybody. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Nicole. Okay, so now we move on to Alan London, and his advisor, Professor Kirk Savage, will introduce him.
Hello, everybody. And it's really such a distinct and amazing pleasure for me to introduce Alan, who is well known to most of you. And I see many of his family members here. So welcome to all of you. It's nice to see you, some of you for the first time. And I just want to say, Alan, it has been such a pleasure from the beginning of this process to the culmination today to have you in our program and to have you in my life and have you as a student that I was supervising. I feel like it's been an enormous privilege and pleasure all the way through. I've so much appreciated your wholehearted commitment to this department, not only to your own work, but to this department and to your fellow students in our cohort. Jennifer, Jocelyn, and I sort of share a cohort of students who work on topics in the Americas broadly, and Alan you have been a really vital member of that, going on field trips and being involved in events and so on. And it's really been terrific for all of us. Every PhD student has their own, I think, unique and winding journey to the culmination of the degree. And Alan's is unique, but so are all the rest of us. I don't think there's no such student as no such person as a traditional PhD student. We're all our own kettle of fish and in our own ways, and should be, right? But Alan in particular is a really unique blend of scholar, collector, and, to use that old-fashioned term, which I think is still apt today, connoisseur of art. And he's brought all those qualities to his dissertation. I think it's safe to say that Alan has become the leading scholar and connoisseur, and perhaps now the leading collector as well, of Stephen Green, who is a fascinating mid to late 19th century painter. And this is such a terrific example of what students, bring to the program and bring to their advisors' lives. Here is a painter that I basically had not registered for me at all in any way. And I can't even say that I necessarily had even heard of him before starting to talk to Alan about him. He was a very, very important painter in his own time, made a transition from a really interesting early career, realist career, in which he painted really sort of interesting biblical kind of crucifixion themed pictures that were related to the Holocaust in interesting ways, and then transitioned into an abstract painter, sort of going against the grain in a sense, starting out as a realist painter when abstraction was really hot, and then moving into abstraction as it was waning in the art world. And so he's a really fascinating figure in his own right. And Alan chose to do, in the end, a single artist monograph, which is a genre of art history that is venerable, but has fallen out of favor in the last several years. But Alan took this on, and I think revitalized it, and in a most amazing way. The title of the dissertation is My Own Place, My Own Name, Figuration, Abstraction, and the Tragic in the Art of Stephen Green. And I really do recommend all of you, this is the kind of dissertation that all of you could read and profit from. It's beautifully written, it's extremely thoughtful, and it's very sensitively observed with a huge amount of really detailed and interesting criticism of the pictures themselves. And just to give you just one idea of the kind of extraordinary work that went into this dissertation, the most of Stephen Green's work is not on display in most museums. It's mostly in storage now. And Alan, with his great talent, was able to get into the storage facilities and talk to curators really across the United States, in some really major museums and some less so, but places like the Guggenheim and MoMA and so on. And to see these things in person, he really took the time and effort to actually work with these objects themselves, and was able, I think, that partly through that, to produce an amazingly authoritative work in the end. So Alan, it has been such a pleasure for me, and I know this won't be the culmination of our relationship. I'm hoping not. I know you'll be getting back to Oakland from time to time from your oasis in Florida, but I will hope that we stay closely in touch. And congratulations again.
Am I visible? Yeah, okay, good. Kirk, I'm overwhelmed by those comments. Thank you very much. The thanks are all mine, I must say, and the pleasure, the honor was all mine. It's been a wonderful experience, but if I may, I'd first like to pay a little tribute to the late Frank Toker. Through Osher, I took, long before I entered the department, I took Frank's courses in American and Renaissance architecture, and I was exhilarated and inspired by his lectures, which I found to be, as everyone does, brilliantly crafted. Frank's erudition, his ebullience, and for me especially, his friendly personal encouragement were really primary motivations for me to seek admission to HAA as a retirement career. And so, like so many others, I'll miss him, as I know you all will. So Josh, who at the time I applied was the DGS, and Kirk, whom I wanted as my advisor, but who at that point in time, probably also today, certainly didn't need yet another advisee, both took a big risk on a 68-year-old man with no art history background. And I was and continue to be grateful to them for doing so. My first official semester in the department was also the first, I believe, for Jennifer and for Shirin. And I was lucky over the next few years to take multiple courses with each of them, as well as multiple courses with Terry and Kirk and Josh and Alex, and equally valuably one course each with Chris and with Barbara. All of those were challenging and superb, just really what I had anticipated wanting, but more wonderful than I could have expected. Alex's arrival in the department, as I was contemplating a dissertation, was fortuitous for me because I found that he likes the same kind of pictures I like. And as a member of my committee, he became a kind of associate mentor, helping shape my thinking and approach. But I'm immensely grateful to Kirk. You've been wise, discerning, patient, tremendously supportive. I'm also grateful to my cohort members, Allison, Carolyn, Ray, Maria, and the two Nicoles. Nicole C., congratulations to you. And grateful also to other grad friends who, if they minded the intrusion of a cynical old man into the grad student mix, at least didn't show it, at least to me. I'm really glad a bunch of my family is here today. I think they're proud of me. which makes me very happy. Most of all, I'm grateful to my wife, Elaine, who has been by my side, totally involved, supportive, and encouraging throughout the process, or as we say in Pittsburgh, throughout the entire process, and who has always made me feel that we could not have found a better use for the tuition money. Being part of HAA has been a wonderfully satisfying experience for me, and I'm thankful to all of you, faculty, staff, and fellow students for making it so. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, and congratulations to you and all the Londons who are here today. This is great. Well, so I get to introduce myself, and I get to introduce my wonderful student, Meredith North. I am so thrilled that she is here from Germany on Zoom. She's in some square somewhere. Can't see her right now, but I'm delighted to say a few words about her. Meredith came to work with me in 2012 after completing her master's degree at the University of Buffalo. And I still remember our first lunch together, where it became clear to me that Meredith was passionately interested in studying what for most people, and I have to confess, including myself, is pretty abstruse and opaque stuff. And that stuff was the conceptually and aesthetically challenging work of the Frankfurt-based artist Peter Rohr and the group of minimalist and conceptualist artists who surrounded him in the 1960s and 70s. And in order to pursue this work, Meredith spent a great deal of time in Germany, researching in archives, tracking down people who had known Rohr. And she also very impressively helped to curate a major exhibition during this time at the Daimler Gallery in Berlin, devoted to minimalist and conceptualist art. And so in this context, she was able to continue some of her research work on her dissertation, but she also was instrumentally involved in making this rather difficult work understandable to broad audiences through her contributions to the very impressive exhibition catalog that went along with the show, as well as public lectures that she gave and tours that she conducted for gallery visitors. So, very interestingly, Meredith's research situated Rohr's art within the emergence of cybernetic thinking in the mid-20th century. And so her dissertation offers a really fresh insight into the kind of repetitive calibrations of Rohr's very austere canvases that allows us to see the broader reckoning of his work with, an utterly transformed cultural landscape in Germany after World War II. So Meredith completed this work last spring as the pandemic got underway. So her dissertation defense, therefore, was unique, a unique event. As her committee was strewn all over the globe and had to flock in on Zoom for the event. Meredith, Professor Ellen Bogan, and I had to roust ourselves out of bed at 7 a.m. on the East Coast in order to sync our time with Professor Randall Halla, who was in Berlin at the time, and with Professor Terry Smith, who was in Sydney, Australia. So this global convergence was capped by a wonderful discussion about the implications of Meredith's research. And I had a last chance to see her before she departed for Berlin sometime early last fall, and we sat together masked outside at a corner sidewalk cafe, and every once in a while we'd lift our mask and drink a little wine and toast each other. So it was different. And I kind of wish that we were together now and we could celebrate in person, but this virtual event is a way of compensating for that. So, I was thrilled to see this project. Kirk talked about the different paths that people take. I mean, Meredith had a very interesting path that took her through Germany and through exhibitions and so forth, and arrived with this dissertation at the end as the end product. So my congratulations to her for this very special achievement. And I will turn the Hollywood Squares over to you, Dr. North.
Well, thank you, Barbara, and thank you all for being here to celebrate with all of us together. It's really nice, and as I'm sitting here looking at all the squares, I realized like what brought me to Pittsburgh in the first place was the people. Often, my first visit to campus, I was greeted by all the current PhD students going to Terry's class. I sat in, and I knew that that's where I belonged. And of course, dreams and actual work outputs are very different sometimes. So as Barbara explained, my winding path took me to Germany, and I often didn't get to spend a lot of time with my own cohort as they were progressing through seminars. But I did get to meet a lot of people every time I came back. It's brand new crop of faces, everybody equally excited and passionate and interested in their work. And so I knew immediately that University of Pittsburgh was for me, and specifically this department. And what sealed the deal for me was Barbara, our lunch meeting that very first time. And then slowly, Terry came on board to my committee, as well as Josh and Randall Holla from the German department. And because I study squares so often, it's appropriate that every committee member formed a side of a square for me. And so I had, generous outputs of support and confidence boosters when I needed it, but also some really heavy hitting scholarship and thinking. And every seminar that I went to fed into the product that I produced. And one of those I really want to highlight is Allison Langmead, who I studied with for 2 seminars over a year. Hey, Allison. And so it instilled a kind of organizational model that if I couldn't fit it in somehow into my dissertation in the end product, it helped underline a sense of organization that I just couldn't get. And so Allison, thank you for that data. And to Barbara and to Terry and to Josh, who are, well, Terry's not here, but Josh and Barbara who are here, thank you. And Randall, wherever he is, somewhere else in this city, thanks to him as well. And to all of my friends and colleagues who have supported me as much as I've supported them. It is totally equal and just a really great community here. And I think that's the foundation for advancing scholarship, truly, is a supportive network of colleagues who will read your work at 10:30 so that you can have some really solid seminar questions for the next day, or you wake up and you're thinking about a different paragraph in a certain way. And I feel like I just had the best support network here. And I think my scholarship has benefited absolutely from that. And I'm super proud to have produced a dissertation that did get some sort of recognition by the person I was writing it for, Paul Maines, who was Peter Rohr's sort of relation in this sense. And so, it was a sort of, it was both sides of it. It was the department and it was my own independent work, and they just really come together in this department. And I truly thank you to all of you for all of that. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Meredith, and congratulations to all of our graduates. Now, as I promised at the outset, we're going to have a hooding ceremony It'll be a little different than usual. You know, if we were actually at the Peterson Event Center, you know, you would be wearing one of these things, right? And at some point you're told to move the tassel from one side to the other. And that's part of the ritual that's involved here. And also part of the ritual is actually managing to keep the mortarboard on your head long enough to turn the tassel. And that is a major challenge to earning the degree. Now, some people have the nice soft tams that stay on your head through a tornado. That is actually cheating. So when you go, you try it with this. And if you can keep it on, then you deserve the degree, okay? So that's one part of the ritual. The other part of the ritual involves getting your colors. So you buy your colors, and I have purple and yellow because I am from Northwestern University. And during the ceremony, you march up to the stage with your colors, and your advisor has the great honor of hooding you. And it usually doesn't work very well, but since I'm doing it to myself, it will work. And this is what happens. You put your colors on, and you've got your colors hanging back here. It's very nice. It goes back to the Middle Ages, very special event. And, you know, it's the gift that keeps on giving. So in other words, when I go to graduation ceremonies now, I always wear my colors. And then I make sure that I walk from the Peterson Event Center all the way back to the Frick Fine Arts Building in my colors. And everybody thinks I just graduated, so they're honking and waving. And I wave back like the Queen of England, and it's great. You keep doing it over and over again, and you can go anywhere in these colors, okay? So even though you weren't able to make it here this year, we are going to be contacting every single one of you next spring so that you can come, put on your colors, and we will walk along the campus back to the building like the Queen of England in our colors. So congratulations to all of our candidates for very successful careers, such wonderful work. Thank you for all you've done. So I hand it back to Jennifer now.
Thank you, Barbara, for modeling the hooding process. And let's see. So at this point, I'd like to invite all of our attendees to unmute yourselves for one round of unmuted applause for all of our graduate degree and award recipients, which includes the many award winners that are listed in the program, as well as our degree recipients here. And so please unmute with abandon.
Hey, congratulations. Wonderful.
Congratulations.
And so there are indeed, as I think we've seen, some positive aspects of this era of virtual events, particularly the increased accessibility that it affords and the chance to come together across many time zones simultaneously. But that said, as Barbara has noted, we are still eager to reunite with you in the Frick Fine Arts building again when it's safe for us to do so. So we encourage you to visit our website, haa.pitt.edu, where you can subscribe to our new department newsletter and stay in the loop about future events, which will be both online and in person. So this concludes our ceremony, and I'll turn off the recording soon, but we'll be glad to keep the Zoom room open to greet any of our students and their loved ones who want to stay and chat. We're so grateful to all of you again for all of your contributions to our students' success, and so proud of our students, and really appreciate this extended community. We're grateful to you for joining us and hope that you have a wonderful rest of your commencement weekends. Thank you so much.